Hi, my name is Daniel Gonzalez, and I'm going to be walking you through the installation and maintenance guide for Genome Pro 3.0. So, Genome Pro 3.0 is a web application for processing genomic data files. The application runs online, and the address can be found right here. The site runs on an Apache 2 server using Postgre, PHP, HTML, and CSS to display client-side information. The programs are all written in ANSI C, and below are going to be the instructions for installing everything you need to be able to run your own Genome Pro server. So the requirements are a Linux or Unix-based operating system that supports Cron, C-R-O-N, which most Linux distributions do, the Apache 2 web service, and a Postgre database. So if you haven't installed all of these, install all of these, and then we'll get going. So step one is moving the website. First, save the project root directory and contents to a new directory where you'd like to host the site. So SSH yourself onto the genomepro.cis.fiu.edu server and download everything that's located in /var/www/html and put that on the server that you want to install Genome Pro on. And the place where you put the server is all platform dependent, but usually you're going to want to put it in /var/www/html. The site should be immediately accessible through the address HTTP localhost, hosted on the local machine. Please make sure not to rename or anything, or else things might break. Step two is installing cron jobs. Oh, before you install cron jobs, you might want to modify the permissions on the files, because depending on your configuration on your Linux or your Unix box, you might be getting 404 errors due to the file permissions being incorrect. So if you just want to be safe, either give everything 755 or just give everything 777 permissions, and just let everything have permission to everything, and it'll all work fine. So step two, installing cron jobs. The server has 3 different cron jobs that must be installed on the system. To do this, you execute sudo crontab-e in a terminal. You enter your password once you're prompted by sudo, and you're going to get a dialog that looks a lot like this, right here. And this is in Nano. This is a Nano dialog. You're going to, once this pops up, enter these 3 lines at the end of the file that Nano's opened up for you. And then you're going to close that and save it. Make sure the lines are changed depending on your system, because the lines might have to be different. For example, these right here, depending on your system. So the second argument, user bin PHP, is where PHP is installed. So if you have PHP installed somewhere else, put that directory there. And then the scripts are going to be located at this file directory. So then please note that the files are absolute file paths and not relative. The Genome Pro server cron tab should look like this at the end. So then step 3 is going to be creating the database. The Genome Pro server can work with any Postgre database that has the same structure as the previous one that you're copying from. So there are SQL dumps that you can use to convert your Postgre database into Genome Pro structure, and they can be found here. Visit localhost phpgadmin or your site domain phpgadmin, depending on if you're on a local or remote connection, and log in by clicking on PostgreSQL on the left-hand side. Use the credentials provided during installation or the default ones. A visual explanation is right here. You're going to click on Postgre, put in your password, and log in. Once you're logged in, create a new database. Click on SQL in the middle, right here, and load your SQL scripts to create the database as well as the tables required for Genome Pro. It's highly suggested that you don't change these scripts, since part of the sites might not function as intended. You should also not change any of the tables, more importantly than the scripts. Step 4, editing the config file. The last step required so that the Genome Pro successfully works on your server is configuring the config file found in root config.php. This file must be updated with new values, including, but not limited to, the database's new name, username, password, etc. The changes should be minimal if you're going to design your server correctly. So here's an example of a config file. You can look at that at your leisure. And below are some real quick guides on installing Postgre, installing PHP admin, I'm sorry, not my admin, accessing a remote PHP admin session, configuring PHP admin, and restarting it. Because after you configure anything, you're going to have to restart. So take a look at this, pause the video if you want, and effectuate all of these commands if you haven't already. And that's all you need to get Genome Pro running on your server. I'd like to note though that if you're just going to be developing on Genome Pro and you don't really want to host it, you can just SSH into the Genome Pro server and edit all of the files directly, which is what I've done this semester and what Roberto Tsinegas has done this semester. And it works a lot more smoothly than having to set up and run your own server to simulate everything. And that's it. Thank you.